Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into a really quite disturbing collection of sources. It's this comprehensive dossier on Jeffrey Epstein, his life, his finances, the crimes, his death.
Yeah, it's a lot. And our mission here for you listening isn't just to, rehash the headlines.
Right.
We're looking at the structure. How did the system work? We're trying to synthesize this huge narrative, finance, politics, crime. It's all tangled up.
The goal is really understanding how someone could operate like this in plain sight for so long. Decades, really.
Exactly. How did he build this network, this shield of impunity? That's what we need to piece together from the material.
So we'll look at, well, four main areas. First, that incredibly fast rise from a math teacher in Brooklyn to this, hyper-connected money guy.
Then how he built the actual empire, the secrecy, the financial tricks, and what the sources call this culture of compromise.
Third, those legal battles, the controversies, the plea deals, basically the evidence of impunity in action.
And finally, his death, the questions that still hang over it, the investigations, the inconsistencies.
And what jumps out right away is how closely the money side and the criminal side were linked from the start. It wasn't separate.
Not at all. They seem to feed each other constantly.
Okay, let's start at the beginning then. The dossier points to his origins. Jeffrey Edward Epstein, born 1953, grew up in Seagate, Brooklyn.
Right. Described as working class. His mom was a school aide, his dad a groundskeeper for the city parks. Pretty humble beginnings, according to the sources.
But smart, especially with numbers.
Definitely. Smart in math is the quote. He was tutoring other kids, skipped 2 grades, finished high school at just 16.
Then College Cooper Union, NYU, studied mathematical physiology.
But crucially, he never graduated. Left NYU in '74 with no degree.
And that missing degree is interesting, isn't it? Because his very next job
Is teaching physics and math at the Dalton School, one of the most elite private schools in Manhattan.
without a degree. How did that happen?
Well, the sources suggest timing was key. The headmaster, who apparently liked unconventional hires, had just left. Epstein got in during that transition. It shows this early knack for finding an in, for leveraging access, even without the usual credentials.
So Dalton wasn't just teaching. It was his launch pad into that world.
Absolutely, a pivot point. Though he didn't last long, fired in '76 for poor performance.
2 years was enough.
It was. And the dossier notes this is where the first reports of inappropriate behavior with female students surface. Focused attention, boundary crossing.
And career-wise, the big connection.
Alan Greenberg, CEO of Bear Stearns, his kids went to Dalton. Epstein meets him there, leverages that connection.
And bang, he's on Wall Street by 1976. Not high up, though, right? Started low.
Yeah, junior assistant, international department, low level. But his rise was incredibly fast.
How so?
He quickly started advising the bank's absolute top clients on, complex tax strategies, using that math brain.
Okay, so that's where the skills paid off.
Big time. Clients like Edgar Bronfman, head of Seagram, he's advising them directly. And by 1980, just 4 years in, he's a limited partner at Bear Stearns.
That's meteoric.
It really was. Even the future CEO, Jimmy Kane, apparently noted his talent with complex stuff.
But then, he's out. Abruptly. 1981, the dossier says a Reg D violation. What does it actually mean in practical terms?
Okay, so Regulation D, it governs private securities offerings, rules about disclosure, who you can sell to, stuff like that. A violation usually means something went wrong there, improper solicitation, maybe bad paperwork.
So a good technicality. Or something more.
It can be a technicality, but often on Wall Street, it's a convenient, quiet way to push someone out without a huge scandal. The firm needed him gone for whatever reason, and that was the stated cause.
Got it. So he leaves Bear Stearns, but he doesn't leave the game.
No way. He immediately starts his own thing in '81, Intercontinental Assets Group, IAG.
And this is the financial troubleshooter phase.
Exactly. He called himself a high-level bounty hunter. His niche was recovering stolen or embezzled money for the super rich.
Like that Spanish heiress, Ana Obregón.
Yeah, that's a key example in the sources. Recovering millions for her. This work gave him incredible access to secrets, vulnerabilities, international networks. Plus, it required discretion, lots of travel.
And the sources mention this is when he starts dropping hints about intelligence connections, meeting figures like Adnan Khashoggi.
Yes, the narrative of being more than just a finance guy starts building here. And we see hints of that later, like that bizarre fake passport found in his safe in 2019.
Right, the Austrian one. With his picture, fake name.
And listing Saudi Arabia as his residence. That's not standard financial advisor kit. It suggests preparedness for, well, something else. operating under aliases.
This troubleshooting leads him straight into another murky area, doesn't it? Stephen Hoffenberg.
Oh, yeah. This is huge. From 87 to 89, Epstein consults for Hoffenberg's company, Towers Financial, making good money, too, like $25,000 a month.
And Towers Financial turned out to be
one of the biggest Ponzi schemes in U.S. history. Over $450 million vanished. Hoffenberg went down for it.
But
Never charged. Hoffenberg later claimed Epstein was deeply involved, a co-conspirator even. But Epstein walked away clean just before it all imploded.
that pattern again.
Exactly. Get close to the fire, maybe grab something valuable. Get out before the building collapses. By 1988, he starts J. Epstein and Company, marketing himself as the guy for billionaires only. Minimum entry, $1 billion.
But that image, managing money for loads of billionaires,
Mm-hmm.
the reality, according to the dossier, was different. It hinged on one relationship.
Leslie Wexner,
Yeah.
yeah. CEO of L Brands The Limited, Victoria's Secret. Huge name. They connect in 86, and it escalates incredibly quickly.
How quickly?
By July 1991, Wexner gives Epstein full power of attorney over basically everything.
Wow, not just investments.
No. Signing checks, buying property, hiring staff, borrowing money in Wexner's name, managing the construction of his yacht, the limitless, total control.
That level of trust or control from someone like Wexner,
Yeah.
that's immense cover.
It was the ultimate cover, and Epstein weaponized it. He'd pose as a talent scout for Victoria's Secret, using the brand's allure to approach and, the sources say, manipulate young women. The financial power directly enabled the abuse.
And speaking of finance, his next big move was geographical. St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, 1996.
Right, he renames his firm Financial Trust Company and moves it there. Purely tactical.
Why the USVI specifically?
Tax advantages. Massive ones. It's offshore for tax purposes, but still under the U.S. legal and banking umbrella, which offers security. The sources state he got something like a 90% cut in federal income taxes.
90%.
Yeah, resulting in an effective tax rate around 4% for that entity. But think about the profits that generates just from the tax savings alone.
And those profits were flowing mainly from Wexner, right?
Absolutely. Financial Trust Company pulled in around $300 million in fees between 2000 and 2006. The moment Wexner severed ties in 2007, after the initial scandal broke, that income basically vanished.
So the model wasn't diverse investments, it was huge fees from one, maybe two key billionaires, like Leon Black later.
Exactly. Leon Black paid him, $170 million in fees over the years? It was a concentrated client base providing enormous management fees, not broad market success.
Now let's connect this timeline to the 2008 financial crisis, because it gets really interesting there.
It does. From 2000 to 2007, Epstein was president of a firm called Liquid Funding Ltd. And guess what they did?
Let me guess. Something with mortgages.
Bingo. Bundling commercial and residential mortgages into complex, high-risk securities, the very things that blew up the market. And Liquid Funding was 40% owned by
Bear Stearns, his old firm. It all comes back.
It always seems to. Now check the timing. August 2006. The Palm Beach sex crimes investigation is heating up. What does Epstein do? He sinks $57 million of his own money into a Bear Stearns hedge fund.
A fund heavily invested in those same risky mortgage securities.
The exact same ones. By April 2007, that fund starts to implode, contributing to Bear Stearns' eventual collapse in 2008. And mid-2007 is precisely when Epstein is negotiating that very controversial plea deal in Florida.
So his legal fate and his deep financial entanglement in the brewing crisis were happening simultaneously.
It's hard not to see a connection, or at least a remarkable coincidence, was the $57 million leverage. A way out, we don't know for sure, but the timing is stark.
That opacity, that secrecy. It extended to his homes too, didn't it? They weren't just houses.
No, they were fortresses, designed for control, maybe paranoia. The Manhattan Mansion, the Herbert N. Strauss house, huge, 21,000 square feet.
And the weird details. The lead-lined bathroom with monitors, the prosthetic eyeballs in the entrance hall.
Yeah, rows of them, apparently made for injured soldiers but displayed like trophies. It's deeply unsettling, suggests a real disconnect.
And then there's Little St. James in the USVI, the so-called Lolita Express Island.
Right, and Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, 7,500 acres, the place where he allegedly planned his eugenics project.
The baby ranch. To seed the human race with his DNA. It's chilling.
Chilling and indicative of the grandiosity fueled by that wealth and impunity.
All these places, the whole operation, seems built on this idea of compromise. The dossier strongly suggests Surveillance was key.
More than suggests. There's concrete evidence cited. Ghislaine Maxwell allegedly told someone the island was wired for video everywhere, like an insurance policy.
And the police found cameras in the Palm Beach raid in 2006.
2 hidden cameras, yes. And then there's the account from Maria Farmer, the artist. She described a hidden media room in the New York place.
What does she see there?
Men watching monitors linked to pinhole cameras all over the house, and she specifically mentioned the views. Toilet, toilet, bed, bed.
So not security. Surveillance aimed at catching people in vulnerable private moments.
That's the implication, capturing compromising material. And they found physical evidence, too, those compact discs in his safe when he was arrested in 2019.
Labeled young name plus name. It's explicit.
Exactly. And Epstein himself apparently boasted about having dirt on powerful people to a journalist. Specific dirt about their private lives. It points to blackmail, or at least the threat of it, being fundamental to his power, maybe more than the money itself.
Okay, let's shift to the legal system's response, or lack thereof. The first big investigation starts in 2005 in Palm Beach.
Triggered by a mother whose 14-year-old daughter reported abuse by Epstein.
And the initial police work sounded solid.
Very. A 13-month undercover operation. They searched his house, found the cameras, photos of girls. They identified 36 minors, some as young as 14, allegedly abused. The police chief actually pushed for the FBI to take over, saying the state prosecutor was dragging his feet.
The FBI did get involved, right? Operation Leap Year.
They did, and they drafted a massive federal indictment, 53 pages, 60 counts ready to go in May 2007. It detailed everything.
And then it just vanished. Why?
The non-prosecution agreement. The NPA, brokered by the U.S. attorney at the time, Alex Acosta. This deal basically killed the federal case.
How'd it work?
Epstein pled guilty to 2 lesser state felony charges involving prostitution. In return, the NPA gave him, and crucially, unnamed potential co-conspirators, immunity from all federal charges related to the investigation.
Co-conspirators, too. So anyone else involved potentially got off scot-free.
That was the effect. It shut down the FBI probe completely. And worse, the deal was hidden from the victims. A federal judge later ruled that violated the Crime Victims' Rights Act. The secrecy was profound.
What was Acosta's justification? How could a U.S. attorney agree to something like that?
Well, this is where it gets explosive, and we have to be clear, this is Acosta's reported reasoning, according to a senior White House official later. Acosta apparently claimed he was pressured into it.
Pressured by who?
He allegedly said he was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and that he should leave it alone, that it was above his pay grade.
Belonged to intelligence. Is there any actual proof of that in the dossier, or is it just Acosta's explanation for the lenient deal?
It's presented as Acosta's explanation, his defense for why he made such a controversial deal. There's no independent verification in the source material of a formal intelligence link. But, combined with the fake passport, the earlier claims, it feeds into this perception, real or maybe manufactured by Epstein himself, that he had some kind of protection.
And that perception could be powerful on its own.
Absolutely. Whether it was true or not, if people believed it, it could have had the same effect.
So the sentence he actually served
It was a joke, frankly. Sentenced to 18 months, served just under 13, and not in a regular jail, a private wing of the Palm Beach County Stockade.
with unbelievable privileges.
Astonishing. Work release out 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, cell door unlocked, access to a private room with a TV.
It sounds like he rented a secure office space, not served jail time.
Pretty much. And get this. The sheriff's office got $128,000 from one of Epstein's nonprofits for extra services.
He paid for his lenient confinement.
That's what it looks like. Money directly corrupting the process. It's the cost of impunity made literal. Wealth buying a different kind of justice.
And he got out early, even from that setup. Why?
The dossier states it was partly because he provided unspecified information to prosecutors about 2 Bear Stearns executives.
Shafi and Tannen, the ones involved in the hedge fund collapse.
The very same ones whose fund Epstein had invested heavily in just before it blew up. So he trades info on financial guys potentially involved in the crisis he was also tied to.
In exchange for less time for his sex crimes. It's all transactional.
Always transactional. Information as currency, just like money.
That deal bought him over a decade of freedom. Until July 6, 2019.
When he was finally arrested again, this time on federal sex trafficking and conspiracy charges.
And the search of his New York home then found more evidence.
Oh, yes. A vast trove of explicit photos, some of minors. And the contents of that safe, The $70 K cash, the diamonds, those CDs, and the old fake Austrian passport. It's like a snapshot of his whole operation. Ready cash, portable wealth, compromising material, and an escape route.
Let's talk about the network. The circle of power around him was vast, and crucially, he kept cultivating it even after the 2008 conviction.
He did. The sources categorized them usefully. You have politicians and royalty. Bill Clinton is obviously prominent, flew on the jet, the Lolita Express, multiple times.
At least 11 times, the dossier says, between 2002 and 2003,
Right.
with Epstein's assistance sometimes. Clinton's camp even praised him publicly early on as a philanthropist.
Right. And then there's Donald Trump. They socialized a lot in the 90s, early 2000s. Trump's infamous terrific guy comment. That relationship reportedly soured around 2004, maybe over real estate, maybe over Epstein's behavior at Mar-a-Lago.
The point being, association with figures like these, regardless of politics, gave him immense social legitimacy.
Absolutely. Then look at tech and finance after the conviction. Bill Gates met with Epstein many times post-2008. Gates said he hoped Epstein could connect him to philanthropic funding.
Did that funding ever happen?
Apparently not. But the meetings happened. It was part of Epstein's attempt to rehabilitate his image. And the association clearly caused problems. Melinda French Gates later cited it relating to their divorce.
And Peter Thiel, another tech giant.
Multiple meetings scheduled with Epstein between 2014 and 2016. Epstein also invested millions in Thiel's funds. So the financial and social links continued long after everyone knew he was a convicted sex offender.
He also courted academics, scientists.
Yes, big names, Stephen Hawking, Lawrence Krauss. This tie into his darker interests, transhumanism, eugenics. The science funding, like $6.5 million to Harvard, was partly about access for these pursuits.
Pursuits like seeding the human race with his DNA. The baby ranch, wanting his head and penis cryogenically frozen.
It's grotesque. But it shows this extreme narcissism, this belief he was genetically superior, enabled by his vast resources. George Church, the geneticist, later apologized for associating with him, calling it nerd tunnel vision, overlooking the crimes for the funding.
Which brings us to the end, his death. August 10th, 2019, in the Metropolitan Correctional Center, the MCC.
And the lead-up was already concerning. Just weeks before, July 23rd, he was found injured in his cell, neck marks. Possible suicide attempt, maybe an assault, but they took him off suicide watch pretty quickly.
Which seems odd.
Very odd. Then the night of his death, his cellmate is moved out, no replacement, he's alone.
The guards assigned to check him every 30 minutes.
Failed. Didn't check him for about 3 hours, they fell asleep. Then they falsified the logs to cover it up. They later pleaded guilty to conspiracy but got no jail time.
And the cameras outside his cell.
2 of them reportedly malfunctioned that night. That was the initial story. So no cellmate, sleeping guards, fake logs, broken cameras. It's a perfect storm of failures.
Which fueled immediate suspicion, obviously.
Right. Then the autopsy. Official ruling, suicide by hanging. But the independent pathologist, Michael Baden, hired by Epstein's brother,
He found something different.
he noted a broken hyoid bone in Epstein's neck. Now, the hyoid can break in hangings, but it's rare, much more common in homicidal strangulation.
So Baden's finding directly challenged the suicide ruling.
It did. It added expert weight to the public skepticism, said it was more consistent with homicide.
And the questions about transparency haven't gone away. The DOJ and FBI recently, July 2025, reaffirmed the suicide finding, denied a client list existed,
And released some CCTV footage to back it up, but then almost immediately reports surfaced that nearly 3 minutes of that footage were missing. Gone. And analysis of the video's metadata apparently showed it had been modified, even though they claimed it was raw footage.
Which just makes everything look worse.
Exactly. It prompted lawmakers like Massey and Khanna to demand the full, unedited files. The fact the case was closed just 19 days after his death also raised eyebrows. Everything seemed geared towards closing this chapter very, very quickly.
So if we pull back and look at the whole picture from these sources, the financial secrecy, the offshore accounts, the billions moved.
The $1.9 billion transferred between just 4 banks, yeah. Extreme secrecy.
Combined with the network, the powerful connections used for cover, the alleged surveillance and compromise.
It paints a picture of someone who built an empire shielded by wealth, connections, and potentially blackmail. He seemed untouchable for decades.
The system, whether legal or social, just seemed unable or maybe unwilling to hold him truly accountable. That impunity is the thread running through everything.
That really is the core finding from this material. His operations were designed for impunity, from the tax havens to the lead line rooms to the carefully cultivated relationships.
Which leaves us and leads you with a final central question that emerges from wrestling with this dossier.
What was the true source of Epstein's power? He was clearly a financier, making huge sums, mainly off Wexner and Black. But he was also a predator, allegedly gathering compromising information, potentially even using it to negotiate with the legal system regarding those same elites. So was its foundation ultimately the money itself, or was it the dirt, the compromising information he cultivated through his crimes? The sources lay out the evidence for both sides. We leave that synthesis, that final analysis with you.